there is another side to this world of the last few years, which has been that there is enormous opposition to it. I don't want to exaggerate that at all. The most vocal point of this, or the most sort of obvious point of this, of course, was the anti-war movement, the masses of numbers of people that went out and did something actively to oppose the war. But of course it didn't just go away at the end of the war, this opposition. There are millions of people around the country, we know that, who feel sickened by this attitude to big business, sickened by the fact that the world has been dominated by big business and the war. We know that in this country there are huge numbers of people, and the atmosphere on Wednesday was just extraordinary. It was almost impossible to go anywhere without somebody doing the clenched fist thing or giving each other hugs and so on, because it seemed to be an end, or at least a dent in that world of big business and war dominating everything. And then the financial crisis, a banner, all of that has added to that. I've travelled around the country and places, almost everywhere I go, there's someone somewhere. I was in Hereford a few weeks ago, came from the anarchists who have set up these little groups where they sort of where they put on anti-war films and so on, and support some of the campaigners against the arms trade that have been campaigning every week in Brighton. It seems every week there's these little groups going, there's these huge numbers of people that feel sickened by big business and war dominating. They should be the constituency that socialists have to speak to all the time. We should be speaking to them all the time, and yet somehow there is yet another part of this world which I think it would be utterly wrong at an event called Socialism 2008 to ignore, and that is the fact that the left haven't related to those people. It's not the case that we have got thousands and thousands of these people coming to us at all. These events take place. I went to a thing, the Tom Paine Society annual lecture in Norwich a little while ago, the sort of thing that you could jokingly a little while ago think, right, well that would be helping. You don't owe me any need to sort of put out extra chairs at that. And there was 500 people there, and it was sold out a week in advance. These things are going on with people fascinated by the ideas that can oppose this world of war and big business. There's no, I shouldn't think there's a single person in this country who attracts a bigger audience who's not an actual performer than Tony Benn. Extraordinary. I see that Glastonbury, as he is every year, this year, 4,000 people, almost all of them 19, with stuff poking out of various bits of them, and just fantastic. And anybody walking outside, seeing him come on, or hearing him come on, and hearing the cheer, would think the White Stripes must have come on. The most extraordinary following that he has. Noam Chomsky booked out, he books out some 3,000 seat theatre somewhere, and it's sold out months in advance. And yet somehow the socialist left has not been able to attract these people to its organisation. So I think there's just a couple of points I want to make very quickly about that. One is that we have to find ways. I'm not going to pretend that I know what the ways are. We have to find ways to relating to people. One of the things that we don't do that helps to relate to those people is engage in constant squabbles and fights and arguments with each other about internecine points that are of very little interest to anybody other than the two people involved. That, I think, makes no help whatsoever. A year or so ago, I was a member of an organisation on the far left. I'm very proud to have been a member of that organisation for a long time. I look back at it now and I think some of the squabbles at the SWP in the minutes and then the Socialist Party had between us, I think all of us, there was, at one point I would have thought just you lot were guilty. Now I think it was probably both of us.
There wasn't a bit of respect.
What? Yeah, so even mention of that, off we go. But I think there's no question. Now, certainly within respect, there was the most absurd argument in which I just sort of found myself despairing as leading socialist worker people started firing off the most juvenile attacks on all sorts of people. In fact, their particular side on an argument that I still to this day can't really work out what it was meant to be, which is, I think, how you characterise an argument on the far left. Work out what it is. And so that, it seems to me, when you're having this squabble, when you end up having the same organisation having two conferences on the same day, 1.5 miles apart, agreeing on everything in the world except that the other lot are all a bunch of arseholes. When you're having that sort of situation, it really isn't a surprise when you're not attracting very many people to come in from outside. And I think that is something that clearly is the case. Also, I think we have to accept and acknowledge that we are small, that there is something brilliant about attracting a small group of people in each town. Is there a group of people in each town, I don't know, Cheltenham and Derby or whatever, in each town, if there's a group of people who are the people who are saying, we are the socialists, we're the people who need, which means we're going to campaign on all the ideas, on all the issues we can, in which there are people fighting against injustice and inequality, but on the other hand we're going to try and inject socialist ideas into those campaigns. Then I think we can begin to fill the vacuum bit by bit without pretending that we're bigger than we are. And I think those are the two things that socialists everywhere need to do. Reflect upon how they're able to, about why we're not able to relate to people, and go and find them and find what it is that they want us to say in order to go to relate to them and recognise our true side. And then when you think about it, really, we should have everything going for us. Everything should be going for us for so many reasons. Big business and war has dominated this world for so long, particularly in the last few years. And most people do not want that. They do not like that. Most people around the world cheer and cheer and cheer until they're hoarse, when there seems to be a tremendous symbol against that happening the other night. We should be able to relate to all of those people around the world, the thousands and millions of people that dance up and down, not just because they think that Barack Obama is going to be a saviour, but because they think that that election is a symbol of an end of that world, dominated by these greedy pigs who want nothing more than just to accumulate ever-increasing wealth at the expense of the rest of us. It ought to be in our favour that socialism is our idea. It ought to be in our favour, because it is so obvious that when this crisis happens, it is so horrific that means that millions of people now fear for the most basic things in the world. At the same time as there are some things that, crisis or no crisis, seem to be able to be made and to get to their destinations whenever they have to. The arms trade does not say, oh my God, there's going to be an economic crisis, we're not going to be able to have any arms anymore. It doesn't seem to be the case that you have to have every year an evening on the television called Arms Relief, where the out in Israel or something like that saying, it's absolutely terrible. There are some militarists out here who haven't had a Tomahawk missile for over 6 months. Please send all your money so that they can have some cluster bombs and more arms here in Israel. It hasn't got anything to go on. That doesn't seem to happen. There seems to be the money for arms and weapons, but never for rice and the most basic medicines and so on. That seems to be the case. Millions and millions of people around the world, I think, find that abhorrent. Millions of people now around the world can see that there is a crisis in which we are being asked to pay for a crisis which we didn't create, but instead leads to bankers and analysts appearing on the television every night saying, well, we certainly can't work out exactly what's happened. I mean, all that's happened so far is that a few of us have just taken millions and millions and millions of pounds out of the economy every day for the last 30 years or so in bonuses, and now there doesn't seem to be any money left. There's possibly one down there. Money. That is right. Many people think that the ideas that we have on offer are ideas that they would like to sign up to. One way or another, all the people who want to call themselves socialists really have a duty, I think, to go out and find why it is that we can't relate to more people, and then to relate to more people and make all of our organisations so much bigger that we can fill the vacuum. So that the parties that happened on Tuesday night in Harlem and Chicago and Oakland and around the world are the parties of millions of people saying, we changed the world, that this wouldn't have happened if it hadn't been for us at the grassroots level, the civil rights movement, the movement against the war. If either of those things hadn't happened, this wouldn't be possible. Therefore, it is us that changes the world, not just people up on high. Millions and millions of people, I believe, are part of the constituency that we can get to fill the vacuum to mean that that party that happened the other night doesn't just last one night, but lasts for the rest of our life.